Hi, I'm Steph, founder and lead trainer of Yoga and Ayurveda Center and online yoga school. We're celebrating Women's History Month and International Women's Day, and it really is a time of looking back at all of the women who have paved the way for us over the years and supporting one another here in the present moment while we look forward to ways that we can empower and uplift our women of future generations. And in this spirit, I'd like to share my story of my woman-owned business. I took my first 200-hour yoga teacher training when my oldest kids were itty-bitty. They're now 32 and 27, and I didn't teach yoga full-time right away. It was many years later when I'd taken the second and then the third 200-hour that I began teaching full-time. I had been rolling around teaching yoga classes everywhere at many locations, and then I completed a 300-hour, and I decided to open my own studio. At my studio, my students were hungry for more. So I started offering workshops, and then from workshops, they wanted trainings. So I ended up offering a 200-hour yoga teacher training. My students told their yoga buddies, and we had people traveling from neighboring states to come to our weekend trainings. And with the winter weather, we had a lot of people who couldn't make it on certain weekends, so I would record the training and put it online for those who weren't able to make it. And the feedback I got about online learning changed everything. Students would say they liked the online more than in person because they could watch it anytime, when it's convenient, where it's convenient. They were able to take breaks and just kind of let everything absorb whenever they needed to. And they liked it so much that they wanted me to record every training so they could watch it between trainings. And this opened the door for me to record an entire 200-hour training that would be self-paced at 100% online. My vision was really all about accessibility, affordability, and authenticity. How can we make yoga teacher training affordable to all people, marginalized community, people who might not be able to afford to spend thousands of dollars on yoga teacher training in person? And how can we make this accessible so that people with schedules who wouldn't allow them to attend in-person yoga teacher training could now become yoga teachers? And how do we do all this while maintaining authenticity as that core guiding principle? So my emphasis was always more on what I was teaching and how I could make it simplest for students rather than having the best recording studio learning curves. But I wanted it to be simple. I didn't want students to have to deal with complicated schedules, logging onto Zoom, so we did it all on demand. And then the challenge became, how do I give students the same learning experience they find at an in-person yoga teacher training? How can we foster this sense of community? So we used Facebook groups, and they offered that opportunity for connection. And then we had study groups and practice teaching sessions that were optional live lessons for people who wanted that connection and gave us that space to connect. And then I would see in our community, what do people need? What do our students need to feel empowered and to take the next step on their path? And around this time, my youngest child had planted her first little seed, her plant. And so we were talking about how we plant the seed and then we water it and we nurture it so it can bloom and it can grow. And something about this experience with her helped me see a deeper vision for our online yoga teacher training community, this idea of plant, bloom, grow. We want to plant the seed with a 200-hour yoga teacher training. We want students to bloom and flourish, so we're watering the plants with additional certification options, continuing education, opportunities for practice and inspiration in our virtual yoga studio. And then we watch as they grow and they're running their own yoga businesses. They're partnered with us to host their own yoga teacher training. They're coming to the mentorship studio for quotes and themes, playlists and sequences and community to help create their own yoga classes and workshops. And since that time, I've watched so many members of our community open their own yoga spaces. They're offering amazing workshops. People are bringing yoga into places and communities that it hasn't been before. Our community is an international one, full of healers, educators, waymakers. And I have books on my bookshelf that our graduates have published, and I just learned so much from them. And then I sit back and realize that this is all a gift. It's not a gift that I'm giving, but one that I receive, the gift of being part of all of these beautiful journeys, witnessing this growth and seeing the women in our community carving out paths. And as we come to Women's History Month, and especially International Women's Day, this is what's coming up for me. And we realize what it's all about is connection. Yoga comes from the Sanskrit root word meaning yoke or union. And it's all about connection, connection between mind and body and breath, self and others, collective consciousness. And in yoga, we sometimes refer back to these ancient texts from India. And we learn about this idea of creation, maintenance, and ending or death. And yoga, of course, is not a religion, it's a practice. But there's this overlay with a lot of Hindi text. And so the religion of Hinduism, also stemming from India, also talks about these three aspects of one creator, and it's known as the Trimurti. And the Trimurti, there's Brahma that represents creation, Vishnu represents preservation, maintenance, sustainability, and Shiva represents destruction, death, which is really more considered a rebirth or a transformation. So it's like really a beautiful way of looking at endings. So in all things we do, we have these three aspects. And it's easy for many of us, especially for me, to have that Brahma energy, that Brahman energy of creating. I have an idea, let's get started. And then once I get to those humps and those obstacles, and I get past those, I'm able to find that Shiva energy of closing and ending, and this is concluding. But it's that sticky middle, that Vishnu energy that can be so tricky. And that's where community comes into play. This beautiful community of yoga teachers and practitioners gives us the support we need, lean on during those moments that the Vishnu energy is running low. And we can lean on one another for support, for inspiration, for motivation to keep moving forward and to keep breathing. And with that, I'd like to wish all of you a very happy International Women's Day. May you celebrate the women who have made an impact in your life, not only through the days of March and Women's History Month, but every day. Thank you.